Welcome to the Hot Rock Podcast. Steve Garland here once again with my special guest from the same town I was born in, Oakland, California. This guy's a sax man extraordinaire, songwriter behind so many top 40 hits you know and love. And I bet you know all the words. He's the man behind the most consistently funky and soulful band in the world, the founding member of Tower of Power, Emilio Castillo. Hey, Emilio, welcome to the show.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having me.
This is the year Tower of Power is celebrating 55 years of funk and soul. That's a long time, bro. That is a lot of blessings. With over a half a century of music behind you, what do you think is the secret behind Tower of Power's consistency and popularity across all these decades?
Well, for me, what I tell people these days is God did it. I just showed up. We made every mistake possible known to man in the first 20 years. And then I sobered up, and Doc sobered up, and we started praying together. And things started to move up, and we've been together for many years. But as far as the music goes, we make it exactly the way we like it to be. We don't chase trends. We don't try to be like other people. We found out that no matter what we do, we sound like Tower of Power. And for a while, we thought that was a curse, but we realized soon that it was a blessing.
I'm born in Oakland, raised in San Leandro, and I have to tell you, just to be a fanboy for a second, when Tower of Power hit the airwaves, back in the day and even today, it's still electrifying. And I feel privileged to have been there when it happened, seeing you guys come up from small clubs to seeing you at the Fillmore and Winterland. And I was actually a roadie for one of your opening acts when I was 17. So I got a chance to see you and Doc and Mick and Rocco and the entire band light the stage on fire, which you still do, by the way. You are headed to New Orleans. Is that correct for a show?
Yeah, we're playing tomorrow night with the New Orleans Symphony. It's a double bill, us and the band Lettuce.
Nice. And then this is the year that you are also going to Europe. You got a lot of dates in Europe as well.
Yeah, we have a big European tour coming up. I'm looking forward to it. It's been a while.
And we've got a lot of fans in France, in the UK. You're going to both of those countries. Where else you guys going?
We're going to the Netherlands and to Germany and to Denmark, some of my favorite countries.
I want to go way back to the beginning here because your story really plays like a movie. You kids got into a little bit of trouble before you got into music.
I had a very short crime career. I tried to steal a T-shirt with my brother and our friend Jody Lopez, and we got caught our first time out. And my dad gave me a notebook. He said, fill it with the reason why you're never going to steal again, and think of something that's going to keep you out of trouble this summer, or you're never coming out of that bedroom. And the Beatles had just come out, and Jody had just gotten the guitar and his vacation down to Mexico. And we said, we want to play music, Dad. And so he took us to Allegro Music in Fremont, and all the instruments were on the wall. And I remember my brother pointed to the drums, I pointed to the saxophone, and we started a band that day. We did it exactly backwards. We didn't practice for years and years and years, and then started a band. We started the band, and we learned to play along the way. And I remember Jody knew the beginning of Pretty Woman. And he kept playing that over and over. My brother was banging all four on the snare drum, and I was squeaking on the saxophone. And my mother walked into the family room. She said, they're going to be big stars.
Now, speaking of your mom, I understand your mom says you had a favorite song you would sing on the toilet all the way back to 6 years old.
Yeah, 6 years old. I could sing Only You by the Platters verbatim. I've always been a good mimic, and I can hear a melody and mimic it pretty well. And my parents played the Platters over and over and over. All those beautiful songs, Bewildered, and Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, and I knew all of them, but Only You was my favorite.
Now, in the 60s, you also, I don't know if it was your first band, but I grew up like you did and millions of Americans watching Batman. And you started a band, was it with your brother Jack?
Yeah, my brother Jack, myself, Jody Lopez, David Gettner, and Francis Rocco Prestia. The band name was Gotham City Crime Fighters. The song that we recorded was Who Stole the Batmobile?
Who Stole the Batmobile, right.
And then on the other side was a song called That's Life. And that was the first time we ever recorded. We had no idea what we were doing. But for 6 months, we were huge stars in the Bay Area. They used to say, come see the Gotham City Crime Fighters with their $15,000 light show. And we would headline at the Longshoremen's Hall, San Mateo Fair. We debuted at the Boss a Go-Go, which was at the Hotel Leamington in Oakland.
Wow. Now, how did this translate over time from doing that to building what we know today as Tower of Power? I know that songwriting came into play with you and Doc. How did that happen?
Well, at some point we tired of the whole Batman thing, just like everybody did of the TV show.
Yeah.
A lot of people were excited about it, but it turned out to be pretty flaky. And, we saw this band called the Spiders in the East Bay. They were just the most incredible soul band with 3 horns and super great background vocals and a lead singer named Dennis Delacqua. And I decided I wanted my band to be like that. And I hired a trumpet the next day. And by God's grace, my brother knew Mick Gillette. He came into the band. And we changed our name to the Motowns. My mom said, if you're going to have a soul band, you should call yourselves the Motowns because you're from Detroit. And so we were the Motowns, and I met Doc at the Alameda County Fair, and he came up to me, and he said, man, you got a nice band. I said, thank you. And then he goes, only one thing wrong. He says, your horn section needs a little bottom. By the way, I played the baritone saxophone. And we auditioned him a week later. He came in the band, and a few months later, he comes up to me and he says, what you're doing with all these songs is amazing, but why are we doing it to other people's songs? Why don't we write our own? And I said, we can try that. And we sat down, wrote our first song, You're Still a Young Man. Even to this day, it's one of our biggest songs. I tell people it's been downhill ever since.
Well, let's get behind that song. As a songwriter yourself, the two of you are responsible for most of the band's hits. What's the story behind that? What was your inspiration?
Well, we were playing at a nightclub in Fremont called Little Richard's, and I was 18 years old. There was this beautiful waitress named Sharon, and we wound up falling in love with each other. And then she would tell me she was older than me. I was 18, she was 24. That was a big deal, back then, to have that much of a gap in age. And then she was telling me, you need to be with girls your own age. And I was like, no, I want to be with you. And, I remember, at one point we broke up and got back together, but it was always that same story. You need to be with girls your own age. And I'd be like, no, I want to be with you. So when we sat down to write the song, Doc says, well, what should we write about? And I go, well, what about this thing with me and Sharon? You're still a young man, baby, ooh, don't waste your time. And I'm going, no, baby. It's like, I only want to be with you, and that's how the song came about.
Wasting my time.
Don't waste your time.
once again. Ooh, just begging you, please, darling, think twice about me. 'Cause I'm not so bad. I could make you happy. I'm not a madman. If you and I could be together, I'd get to you through any weather. I love you. Yes, I love you only. I'll never, never leave you lonely. No, I won't, sweet lady. Don't waste your time. The damage is done. You'll see that you were wrong. You wake up wondering just how well I've done. Well, I've done all right. Yes, there are some girls, but you know I drop them on side just for you. Because I love you. You're still a young man, baby. Ooh, don't waste your time. I'm not a young man, baby. And I don't feel that I'm wasting my time. Not when it's you, girl. You better believe. Someday you'll understand just what it means when a man comes to you with his little heart in his hand just to love you. Just to get up next to you and hold you. Oh, baby. You say that I'm wasting my time. Well, it's my time, baby. It's you. You better listen to me. Saying I'm loving you. Yeah. Hey, now, baby. Trying to tell you that it's you. Talking to you, baby. I'll never, I'll never do you no, lady. If you would check my stuff out one time, just to hold you, just to squeeze you, and all I want to do is get next to you and please you, baby. You see where I'm coming from?
You're listening to the Hot Rock Podcast. Steve Garland here with my special guest, Tower of Power's own Emilio Castillo. Now, Bill Graham, instrumental in so many different bands' careers, including Tower of Power. He's the guy that really helped you go from local band to a recording artist. But I grew up in that area too. The music was the antithesis of the funk and soul groove of Tower of Power. How did you feel fitting into that whole culture and performing there? And how did that lead to your recording contract?
Well, when we met Doc, he was a roadie for a band called The Loading Zone. They were pretty famous. They were like a hippie soul band, and they already were playing the Fillmore. And, you know, Linda Tillery was the lead singer. She was friends with Janis Joplin. And, you know, we decided, you know, we want to quit playing all these little nightclubs you're playing all over the Bay Area and get into the Fillmore. And, you know, the whole psychedelic thing had sort of been reigning in the Bay Area for about 4 years at that point. And they were ready for something new. And that's right when we came out and, you know, Cold Blood had come out and Santana came out. They were ready for some rhythm and for some soul. And, you know, just because what happened is Bill Graham sort of tweaked the collective ear of the Bay Area by, exposing them to all these different kinds of music. He would have the Quicksilver Messenger Service headlining, but he would have Albert King and Tito Puente on the same bill, And then the next night it would be Jefferson Airplane, but it would be Rahsaan Roland Kirk and Freddie King. It's like all these eclectic bills, and everybody's expanding their mind, and they're like, "Oh, this is cool." And so we came along just at the right time. They were ready for something different. And Bill was always a big fan of horns and rhythm, and we had plenty of that.
And the sound that you guys made, especially on your debut album, East Bay Grease, kind of came as a surprise and a huge moment of pride for all of us growing up in the East Bay, because this was like the title of the album. It was East Bay Grease. But my question is, do you remember where you were when you first heard a song that you wrote from Tower of Power on the radio?
I do. I was living in Oakland on... it was at 62nd, and I was on Hayes Street by Seminary Avenue. I was in bed. It was morning, and, back then, we would leave the radio on all night. K-San was the big FM station, and we would just kind of leave it on at a low volume. And I remember I heard the flute from Sparkling in the Sand. And Doc was in the bedroom on the other side of the wall, and I got so excited. I started banging on the wall. I said, Doc, they're playing us, And that was such a thrill to hear Sparkling in the Sand on the radio. And then K-San, they became a big proponent of Tower of Power. We became friends with Dusty Street, and we used to go up there and spin records with her in the middle of the night. She introduced us to Baco, another DJ on K-San, and we did some recording for him. So it was a very special time.
Now, let's talk about the secret sauce behind Tower of Power. You know what it is, and so do I. It's your horn section, bro. What do you think really makes the horn section so special? Is it the way you arrange the charts, the level of musicianship you demand? Whatever it is, there's artists from, of course, Carlos, to Huey and the News, to Bonnie Raitt, Hart, that have hired you guys to back them up. What do you think it is?
Well, I think the arrangements have a lot to do with it. We did our own head arrangements at first, but then we met this guy named Greg Adams. He came into the band, and he had a lot of arranging skills, but he didn't really know funk that well. And we kind of both schooled each other back and forth. But eventually, he became the main horn arranger, and he knew how to arrange for them rock artists. He wrote simple charts so that when the horns played, it stuck out in the mix. He never did an arrangement where it covered the guitar, because when you got a guitar band, who's going to be loudest in the mix? Obviously the guitar. So he would stay out of people's way and do these, bow or bow, 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 things that would stick out of the mix. And, that really catapulted the horn section in the rock world. As far as Tower of Power, we have a certain way of approaching soul music that's all our own. It's very East Bay based, and we learned from all the greats that came out of the Oakland area. And also, we pattern ourselves against the Memphis horns. And we listened to a guy back in those days produced by Jerry Ragaboy, and that guy's name was Howard Tate. And that horn section he had, the baritone was always really loud. So we patterned ourselves after that. But, basically, as you go along, you find your voice, you find your signature, and then you just keep chipping away at the sculpture and polish the diamond.
Exactly sure what's hip. Started to let your hair go. quite right. What is hip? Tell me if you think you know. What is hip? If you're really hip, the passion is the show. You in a hip trip, maybe hipper than hip. What is hip?
Rock podcast still sounds as incredible as the first time I heard it, and the man behind it, the writer and the sax player and founder of Tower of Power, is with me, Emilio Castillo. Let's get down to a few of the other big songs that you guys have done. What about You've Got to Funkifies?
As far as You Got to Funkifies, you know, it was just, Doc was always really good at coming up with these clever words and stuff. And he says, let's write a song called Funkifies, you know. And the idea was pretty simple, you know, let's funkifies your mind, let's funkifies the groove, let's funkifies life. And we wrote that song. I remember after we wrote it, we were in a car, Doc, myself, and Skip Mesquite. And Skip, I remember, you know, we were talking about songs, and we said, we wrote this song called You Got the Funkifies. And he went, You got the Funkifies? What's that? And I started to sing it. You got the Funkifies. And he went, damn, you did it again. You know, so we knew we had something.
You got to funkifies. You got to funkifies. You got to funkifies. You got to funkifies.
definitely the funkiest podcast we have done yet, and with good reason, with Tower of Power and Emilio Castillo on the show. I know if you're a fan of Tower of Power, you've been listening to this. So 2 quick things. Don't forget, if you want to get tickets to one of their shows, they are going to be in France, in the UK, all over Europe, and then back to the USA touring this year for their 55th anniversary of Tower of Power. You can get all the information you want on that, their upcoming Christmas album, their huge library of music, and the wealth of history behind Tower of Power. Just go to towerofpower.com. This song is the one that's been copied by so many club bands over the decades, down to the nightclub.
Yeah, back then we played at the On Broadway in Jack London Square. We also did after hours gigs at Lucky 13 and Little Richards. And, there was this song called The Bump that Rufus Thomas came out with. And, we used to have a phrase, wow, man, it was hopping last night, man. It was Bump City, and that meant that the people were on the dance floor and they were doing the bump and the dance floor was packed and they were grooving to the groove, So Doc says, I want to write a song called Down to the Nightclub. I go, yeah, cool. And he goes, yeah, and we'll say, let's go bumpty, bumpty, bump to Bump City. And I was like, yeah, that's totally cool. And we had David Garibaldi come over to the house, and while we were writing it, he helped write it with us. And that song's actually, we just resurrected it in our live show. So it's fun playing it right now.
It's Saturday night and I'm just hanging out, looking for a place to party. I jumped into my ride and I hit the road, 'cause there's only one place to go, down to the nightclub. To the nightclub, you can get what you want if you know how to find it. To the nightclub, ooh, we be slick, 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 and all the people be bumping at Bump City. The joint be jumping at Bump City. The mamas be humping at Bump City. Hey, while the band be pumping, shut the band be pumping. Something. Wow! What time, y'all? The night's almost gone and we're still going strong. The party's been so hearty. I hope it doesn't show while I'm driving down the road that I had too much to drink. Down to the nightclub. Well, if you got the dough, the liquor will flow. To the nightclub. Hat on a drum, drum, drum. Down to the nightclub. To the nightclub, we slick, 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 down to the nightclub, we go bump to bump to bump, down to the nightclub, down to the nightclub, well, if you got the dough, the liquor will flow, to the nightclub, yeah, oh yeah, to the nightclub, look at me, you can get what you want if you know how to find it.
Hey, it's the Hot Rock Podcast with Tower of Power, and Emilio Castillo is my special guest. In 2020, you lost an original member of the band, Rocco. And as a kid in the East Bay playing bass myself, he was a huge influence on me. Can you talk for just a moment about Rocco's contribution to the Tower of Power sound?
Yeah, Francis Rocco Prestia. I knew him as Frank Houghton. When I met him in Fremont, his name was Frank Houghton. He had a stepfather. He used his last name. And he was a guitar player. You know, somebody told me he played guitar. I knew he had really cool hair. I told the guys, this guy plays guitar. He's got cool hair. They were like, yeah, bring him in. And we had a teacher named Terry Saunders who used to come and teach us a song once a week. My dad had hired him. And he came in the first time. He said, everybody play a little bit on your instrument. So, you know, I played my sax. My brother played his drums. And then he goes to Frank Rocco, and he says, play your guitar. And he was a horrible, horrible guitar player. And he says, you need to play the bass. And we all said, what's a bass? And he goes, don't worry about it. You need one. And he went and got him a bass. And within 2 weeks, he was better on the bass than 7 years on the guitar. And he just was a natural, you know. And he was never a real schools musician. All his real knowledge about music came from me. You know, I had taken some theory lessons. I learned about numbers, and I taught him about numbers. And, you know, we communicated that way over the years. And, you know, I always was kind of like his interpreter, you know. If he didn't understand something, he'd come to me, you know, or I'd tell him, you know, right there, that note, bring it up a half step, that's not working, you know, that kind of stuff. But his feel was phenomenal, and it was never a head thing. It was always from the gut, from the heart, you know, and that's why, you know, you'll hear people that are really inspired by him, and they do something and try to play like him, but it's never quite like him, because he had an amazing touch, an amazing feel, and everything was from the heart.
So much oil in the ground.
Only So Much Oil in the Ground, produced and written by Emilio Castillo and the guys in Tower of Power. And it's still one of the most amazing bass licks and grooves that I've ever heard. Straight out of Oakland. I'm Steve Garland. It's the Hot Rock Podcast. And my guest is founding member of Tower of Power and sax player supreme, Mr. Emilio Castillo. Now, we've talked about the past. We've talked about how Tower of Power became the group that it is, which takes us to today. I know a lot of members have changed over the years because it is 55 years later. Can you tell me about the current lineup of the band? Because I know I've heard you have a new singer, Mike Jarrell.
Mike Jarrell, phenomenal. I heard him singing on The Voice online. He's saying, this is a man's world. I said, I got to get in touch with this guy. And he's wowing them nightly. And Iron Mike Bogart has come back on trumpet and trombone. We got Roger Smith just killing it on the organ. Jerry Cortez, finest guitar player ever to be in Tower of Power. And to replace Rocco, we got Mark B.W., who's an Oakland, player that's just phenomenal bass player. And it's brought a whole new life to the band. Him and Garibaldi work together really well. Of course, Tom Pollitzer on lead tenor saxophone, and me and Doc. Doc Kupka's got that big baritone saxophone sound, and we got the 5-man horn section, and sometimes we have 6 horns because Mike Jarrell also plays trumpet and he plays keyboard.
Let's hit him with some squib cakes! Come on, Funky Doctor!
That is some funky stuff live. Tower of Power Squib Cakes from their 50 Years of Funk and Soul release. By the way, that was recorded live at the Fox Theater in Oakland back in 2018. You want to get the DVD of that or the CD set, you can go right to towerofpower.com. I'm Steve Garland with the Hot Rock Podcast. We got just a couple of minutes left with Emilio Castillo, the founder of Tower of Power. Emilio, I know you're going to Europe for the first time in a long time. On tour as well as the USA. You've got some other surprise projects coming up. Anything you want to say to the fans worldwide?
Well, we're recording a brand new Christmas album, and we're hoping to have it finished and out this year for the holidays. And we hope everybody will pick it up. We just thank everybody for supporting us over the years. And it's been a great ride, and we're very grateful.
Ain't nothing I can say, nothing I can do. I feel so bad, yeah, I feel so blue. I got to make it right for everyone concerned. Even if it's me, if it means just me, what's getting burned? 'Cause I could never make you unhappy. No, I couldn't do that, girl. Only wish I didn't love you so. Makes it so very hard to go. So very hard to go. 'Cause I love you so. I knew the time would come, I'd have to pay for my mistake. I can't blame you for what you're doing to me, girl, even though my heart aches. Your dreams have all come true, just the way you planned them. So I'll just step aside, I'm gonna step aside and lend a helping hand in. 'Cause I could never make you unhappy. No, I couldn't do that, girl. Only wish I could love you so. Makes it so very hard to know. So very hard. 'Cause I love you so. So very hard. I love you so. I could never make you unhappy. No, I couldn't do that, girl. Only wish I didn't love you so. Makes it so very hard to go. So very hard to go. 'Cause I love you so. So very hard to go. I love you so. So very hard to go. It ain't easy to walk away when a man loves somebody. Hey, hey, hey.
I only wish I had more time because I've got another dozen or so questions for my guest today. But you got to get on a plane. It's the Hot Rock Podcast. Steve Garland with Emilio Castillo of Tower of Power. I want to thank you for your time today. May Tower of Power continue to groove and funkifies for many, many more years to come. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks so much, Steve. God bless you. Bye-bye.
God bless you too. Bye-bye. Definitely the funkiest Hot Rock Podcast we have done yet, and with good reason. with the amazing Tower of Power and founder Emilio Castillo, still going strong, man, after all these years, 55 years. And this is not an old band squeakily moving forward. They sound just as good as they did back in the day, if not better. I mean, they are amazing. You want to learn more? Well, you're going to have to go to their website, towerofpower.com. You can learn all about their European tour, their tour across the USA, and more. I'm Steve Garland. Before I go, I want to give a big thanks to Alan Carlos Hernandez, friend of the show and consultant of the show, who connected us with Emilio and Tower of Power. Blessings to you, my friend. We appreciate you. On the next Hot Rock podcast, well, I believe we have Carl Perazzo of Santana coming up. We'll be talking to Eric Martin about the Mr. Big reunion, and we're trying to get back in touch with our friends Night Ranger because they're hitting an anniversary tour this year as well, and we'll be coming through. I'll be seeing them when they play at the venue at Thunder Valley in just a couple of months. So lots of exciting things going on here. If you want to listen back to any part of this podcast with Emilio Castillo of Tower of Power, or peruse some of our other interviews in our vaults, if you will, all you have to do is go to hotrockpodcast.com. That's hotrockpodcast.com, and you can listen to any of our podcasts, including Tower of Powers, for free, on demand, anytime you like. Well, that's it for this show. Steve Garland out of here. Thank you for listening, and until next time, you know what we say, keep rocking.
She was the one who could calm my heart. I know someday that we could happen in a special way. I wish I might make you my all-star, shining bright. I know I can feel it. This time is real. Other girls that I had were fine, but they